Shalom, shalom. Welcome to Supporting Yah's Cornerstone. My name is Heshra'ah, and that name means moved by Yah. In today's video, I'm going to talk about what standard to live by. It's important to know what standard you need to live by and to remember that standard when you're going through troubled or challenging moments or challenging times. I'm going to start just by saying when I first decided to live for the Creator, I came with a blank slate for the most part. I didn't focus on what I thought I might already knew that a woman should be doing, or how a person should be, or what they should be doing as far as righteousness was concerned. I came with a mind to learn, and I was ready to hear what the expectations for a woman or for a person was. And so I think that's important to do, to come ready to learn and to be open to learning, even if you already know a lot already about what Yah's expectations are for you as a woman and also as a person. Sometimes it's things that we may already know on the surface, but there's more to it. And so, or it may be things still that we weren't aware of, that's brought to our attention. So I think it's just helpful to be open to learning, especially in the beginning, you know. And you can go years and not completely have a full understanding sometimes of certain things. And so I don't want to get too far off the topic, but you may know the surface of something and that you should be doing it, but then you don't. Sometimes there's more to learn as far as how, and then the importance of it, But I think it's important just to be open to, continually open to studying and to knowing Yah's word and to gaining more understanding, because over time, a lot of times, Yah add understanding to us through our mores and sometimes through other people, so that we can continue to progress and do better. But at that time, also, my husband, this was in 1998. At the time, my husband gave me a lesson called the Holy Woman Lesson. It was 2 pages typed. And I remember just really going over it over and over again, going over the scriptures, and it really laid a foundation for me as to what was expected of me as a woman, especially. Okay. And as mostly as a woman, as far as that lesson was concerned. Also, along with that lesson, the studies that my husband was having with me at the time, and also Sabbath classes were also laid an additional foundation of what I should strive to be, or what was expected of me from Yah as a person and as a woman. So I might didn't understand everything, or I might didn't know everything, every expectation at that time, but I had a basic foundation of understanding of the standard of Yah. This was very important. This became very important to me later. I didn't understand how important that was going to be. I knew it was important to my personal change, but as far as maintenance, I didn't understand, and maintaining and continually to be able to endure and work towards change and endure challenges. I didn't know that at the time, or think that I was going to need that for that, but it ended up doing that. Excuse me, when I'm looking down, I'm just looking down at my notes. But this helped me maintain a level of righteousness no matter who was around and what they believed or what they were doing. And so, because for a long time, and at the time, I wasn't around a lot of others that were living like we were striving to live at the time. And then later on, And when I say later on, it wasn't that much later between when I first made the decision to live for Yah and then the point it came to where we were in groups, in various Hebrew Israelite groups. So it didn't take, it wasn't that long span of time. And then we were in a situation where we were around other Hebrew Israelites that were serving Yah too. And so that became even more important at that time in those situations where we were around others serving Yah. Sometimes when you're around people that's not serving Yah, it's kind of more obvious what you should do, what you shouldn't be doing, and for you to remember what you should be living up to. But then when you're around other people that's serving Yah with you or that know the name of Yah, then sometimes that can get a little complicated. Things can become very confusing when you're around those serving Yah. And sometimes they have various ideas and expectations of what a woman should do and be. They have sometimes various ideas of what a woman or daughter should be or how they should conduct themselves or their roles, just so on like that. So even though you're serving Yah together, sometimes it's just all those different ideas. I have seen many women lose their focus and relationship with Yah when they become confused about what standards they should live by or what was acceptable to Yah. Lines are crossed sometimes between Yah's standard and other religious standards or secular standards. Because what you find is when we decide to live for Yah, we either coming from no religious perspective at all. So our ideas a lot of times are basically based off things just popular in the world, popular secular ideas, or it's really based off religious things we've learned from other religions, and then we bring that thinking a lot of times automatically into the way of Yah. So I've seen it to where those lines become kind of blurred, and it brings about confusion sometimes within the those who know the name of Yah. I'm not going over what Yah's standards are in this video, but I am going over the importance of remembering Yah's standard and really choosing it no matter what others think or what's or despite whatever's happening at the time, that you can strive to keep his standard in behavior and conduct. So that's what I want to focus on really in this video is one, just choosing Yah's standard, assuming that you know a basic of it already, and choosing Yah's standard, and especially choosing it and remembering it when things are going wrong or when you're in a challenging situation, to strive to keep his standard, as I said before, in your behavior and your conduct, in what you do. This has helped me overall in being able to endure challenges and continue my walk with Yah in a sincere way. And the reason why I said it in a sincere way is because I've met sisters over the years who they were still coming to Sabbath class, they were still accepting the name of Yah, but then in their mind, they were really dealing with issues in their mind. So it's like their body was there and they still had the knowledge of Yah in their mind, but in their actions, really trying to strive in a sincere way, that was no longer really there. And you could tell. And so that's why I said in a sincere way. It's almost like you give up on something, but you stay because that's what you're used to. And so that's what I found with some sisters. So that's why I spoke of it in those terms, where I was able to, endure in a sense of really still having a mind to strive to seek Yah. When I came into this way of life, challenges started to come almost, I don't want to say immediately, but pretty quickly. And they lasted off and on a long time. Um, I've met a lot of women over the years from different places who lived for Yah since 1998 and from various groups, just various groups. And over time, a lot of the ones that I have met, a lot of them didn't make it in this way of life. And I found that just thinking back sometimes, that when challenges came, most of the time, they just weren't able to overcome it. And it was just by the grace of Yah and struggle that I was, even some of them I have known to have passed away that I originally met in 1998 and up until now. Even within the last 3 years. And so, and it wasn't that sometimes they weren't sincere. Sometimes it was a matter of just not being able to overcome. And sometimes becoming confused or influenced, even within this way of life, to go against Yah's standard. And when I say standard, we'll get to that part later, what that is. But we'll get to that part a little bit later. But just having conflicts and confusion in their mind on what they should be doing as a woman as it pertains to y'all. And then making bad decisions based off of that. Because you make your decisions based off of what your standards are and what standards you're supposed to be living by. That's how you think and base your life decisions day by day. So we'll get to that. I feel like if that helped me, that it can also help you. I know that it can, because it gives you a focus. When you choose a standard, and especially you choose a righteous standard, it gives you a focus. It gives you something to, first of all, it gives you something to do. It gives you a foundation of thinking. And it really gives you a foundation of answers, that you don't have to be confused about when situations come about. You already know certain things to automatically do, or certain things to automatically don't do. And sometimes that makes situations easier to deal with off the bat. So let's define standard. Standard is an object or quality or measure serving as a basis or example or principle to which others conform or should conform, or by which others are judged. So it's a way of conduct to live, so to speak. Just like Yah has laws, statutes, and judgments. Also, we have our culture, how people lived. That's important. And every nation has a culture. Even I'm here in the United States. The United States has a culture within itself that's not all based off of the various religions. Okay? Wherever you are in this earth, seeking to serve Yahweh, whether you're in China, England, France, or wherever, there's a standard in that place. There's Yah standard, what you're learning, and then there's whatever standard of the various gods and religions in that place. And then there's just the standard of the place itself that may not all the way be based off of any religion. There are many principles to live by and lifestyles to choose from. For example, today, as far as religions, we have Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, or just a secular lifestyle. Some people are not in any of the popular religions. Some people just live a secular life. They live according to the basic Western thought. In the past, Hebrew Israelites chose from Egyptian gods, and we saw that with Moses, that our people built the golden calf, the Israelites, or Baal, or the Queen of Heaven. Our people worshiped that deity even hundreds of years ago. And all of those deities had under those deities, in those thoughts, there were in those lifestyles, there were a certain type of thinking, a certain type of way to live, what was acceptable. There were things that were acceptable, that were unacceptable, because all that goes within that standard. Or our people hundreds of years ago just lived by the values of whatever kingdom we were servants in at that time. And us as Hebrew Israelites, we were servants under a lot of different nations. And so we took on the ways and thought patterns of those different nations a lot of times, whether it was based off of their religions or gods or just those people's thoughts on living. So there's always been a variety of choices of what standard or lifestyle you're going to live outside of Yahweh. Okay, and we have those same variety of choices today. Joshua spoke to our people in the past and told them the standard him and his family were going to live by. Because that's the thing. You can't speak for anybody else. And when Joshua was speaking, he was speaking to his own people, to the Hebrew Israelite nation that was standing before him. But he could only speak for himself and his family, his house. And at the end of the day, that's all you can speak for. In Joshua 24:15, it says, "And if it seem evil unto you to serve Yah." And so as Joshua is speaking, and when he speaks these words, you understand that the people he's talking to, they know the name of Yah too. But you can tell by what he's saying that everybody's not choosing to live according to that standard, or according to Yah's thinking, or according to the lifestyle Yah gave to us. "And if it seem evil unto you to serve Yah, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yah." So Joshua in that statement was making a stand and making it known that this is what I'm going to do. Me and the people who are under my care and my house. This is how this is going to go. And so in your mind, you have to always kind of remember that yourself. And sometimes you're going to have to remember that as you amongst others that know the name of Yah, but they're living life how they desire, not necessarily striving to live and think and make decisions according to Yah or based off that foundation. When you choose a standard, that's choosing how you make decisions. That's automatically choosing the decisions you make. And you making decisions day to day, and especially when things happen. Whatever standard of life you live by, then that's going to determine your decisions day by day. And those are either righteous according to Yah or unrighteous. So to serve, I want to read that definition because it said that if it seem evil unto you to serve Yah, then choose who you will serve. Serve means to give service, respect due, to comply with the demands of. To comply with the demands of. So to serve is basically you're going to be respectful and you're going to be obedient to whatever standard or rules go with what you choose. So when you choose Yah's standard, that means that you're going to be obedient to that standard. If the Creator tell you don't lie to one to another, then you're not going to do that. For example. So to serve is to give respect and to comply, to be obedient to. And that becomes important when you are supposed to be living by the standard of Yah. It's important to remember that when things aren't going properly. It may not be going properly with a person or with a situation overall. So let's give an example. A sister treats you badly. Just another Hebrew Israelite woman. Let's say they serving Yah along with you. They know the name of Yah. And you find her $20 she dropped. Do you give it back? Or do you keep it to get back at her? Because she treated you like crap anyway. Maybe her child comes to you with a problem that he or she needs to talk about. And they decide to talk to you. How do you react to that? Do you react to that according to Yah's standard and expectation? Or do you act according to a secular expectation or whatever expectation you made up in your mind? Do you say, well, I'm going to tell her child the wrong thing or unrighteous thing so I can make sure she troubled? Because that's how some of us think. I've had experiences like this. That's how some of us think. This is my time to get back at you because I don't like you anyway. But it's at times like that you have to remember Yah's standard. And that goes beyond whether you like a person or not, whether you're trying to get out of a situation quickly or not. It goes beyond that. It becomes about doing what's right and then doing things in the correct way. And sometimes that may leave you uncomfortable for a little while or for a moment. And when I was thinking about that, it made me think about Yah and all the things he have to look down on this earth and see. Now, eventually, these things will change. And Yah knows that. He knows the time that it will. But for hundreds of years, he's had to live with it as it is. He have to look down in Jerusalem in a place where he put his name and see temples to other gods there in that place. And he has to see all types of things going on. And that's just in Jerusalem that breaks his law, statutes, and judgments. And that's not even to say the things that go on in the different places where we are, whether you're in the United States or whether you're in China, whether you're in France or England or somewhere else in the Middle East of the world, or whether you're in South America, whether you're in Australia, wherever you are. But Yahweh is very patient, and we experience his patience every day. It's going to rain here, and it's been raining here in my area. And it basically has rained on everybody. It's rained on farmers, crops, whether they serve Yah or not. So I'm just saying that to say that Yah himself even has patience sometimes in difficult situations. Because it has to be difficult to see your creation rebel against you every day. Some part of your creation is rebelling against you daily, And for him to deal with that, how he's dealt with it over the hundreds of years until he processes it out. And so sometimes in our own lives, in a small way, sometimes in order to keep Yah's standard, it's going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable for a while. And so, but it's important to do things in a righteous way. Um, we have to remember Yah does not shape his standards according to the times. So Yah doesn't modernize his standards. Now, in other religions, sometimes they do. What wasn't acceptable 500 years ago, or 300 years ago, or 2 years ago in some religions, is acceptable today. Okay? But Yah doesn't work like that. He doesn't change according to meet the current of idea of what different people want. His thoughts, laws, judgments, character expectations, and roles, those don't change according to the thoughts based on old or new religions or secular thinking. So he's not just going to accept something because a lot of people want it. And so now I'm going to rearrange that law to now it's acceptable. Or I'm going to change something cultural, and because the people don't want it, I'll say that that's unacceptable. Yah doesn't do that. People do that, but Yahweh does not do that. Malachi 3:6 says, "For I am Yah, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed." And the main thing that I wanted us to get from that is, for I am Yah, I change not. So Yah's standards don't change year by year, or decade by decade, or century by century. A lot of things that was wrong 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, is still wrong today. Yah still sees murder as wrong. He sees adultery as wrong and unacceptable. He sees serving false gods as wrong and unacceptable. And just giving a few examples of that. So Yah's ideas and standards and lifestyle and way of living does not change according to times. Isaiah 55:8-9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith Yah. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." So Yah is telling us right there that he has a better standard than we do. Because a standard deals with your way of thinking about things, about everything, really. How do you think about marriage? What does it mean to marry? What does it mean to be a husband and a wife? Is it okay to boyfriend and girlfriend? Is it okay to lie sometimes? Is it okay to tell a little lie? When is it okay to lie? I'm just giving out various examples. If somebody has done you wrong and you see they in a need or immediate trouble, maybe they need a glass of water. Do you give them a glass of water? Do you not give them a glass of water? Okay. So what y'all saying is his thinking is better than our thinking. His way of life is that he has for humanity is better than what we, how we think to handle things and deal with things in our mind. And so we know that Yah does have a higher standard, that Isaiah 55 is definitely true. We live in the opposite of that every day, because none of us are we living in Yah's world in the sense of he created it. But as far as the thinking of most of the people and the nations, they live completely opposite. And so we're experiencing that every day. So if you really look at it, we should be able to answer that question. Is Yah's way higher? Because we currently don't, as human beings, as humanity, we currently don't live in a world that practices Yah's standard. So how do you live day by day? Can you leave your door unlocked? Can you trust your daughter, your wife, around anybody? Can you trust your children with anybody? Do you feel comfortable just letting them outside to play? Letting your children, your nieces, your nephews, your cousins? If you left $20 in a place, do you think you could go back and get it back? Just a few questions to think about. So if you're not sure, or if you feel like, well, Yah's standard is too hard, I don't want to live like that in a world like that, well, you already have that wish. It's already that way. If you're not sure about what that looks like, then just take a look around you where you live. It's already that way. You're already in an environment that does not live by or consider the standard and lifestyle of Yah. Choosing and living according to Yah's standards determines the effectiveness of our prayers to Yah. And remember, a prayer is just a communication between you and Yah. Okay? It determines how much He involves Himself in our lives and how. Is He working toward our good or toward our downfall? Isaiah 59, 1-2 says, Behold, Yah's hand is not shortened, that it cannot save, neither His ear heavy, that it cannot hear. But your iniquities have separated between you and your God, and your sins have hid His face from you, that He will not hear. And so when we choose not to live according to the standard of Yah, or we turn from that, we turn away from the expectations that we know about. And I say it in that way because Yah is merciful. He understands what you do know. He understands what you don't know. And when we turn from what we do know, then that lessens our prayer power, our communication with Yah. It causes Him to say, hey, I don't want to hear from you. Now let's bring that to a human level. I'll bring that to myself. Starting from the age of about 12 or 13, well, I'm going to say about 13, I really started acting up. My mother was my main caregiver. My father had kind of been in and out of my life. But I started to really act up. Okay. Be very disobedient. And by the time I was 14, I had already been sexually active and I was pregnant. At that point, my mother let me stay in her house 4 months. And then she had me move away. From that point on, I saw my mother 2 more times within maybe a 5-year period. So I was 14 and pregnant, about 4 months pregnant when I had to leave her house. I spoke to her, or I saw her probably 2 more times after that. So about for 4.5 to 5 years, I did not see my mother or talk to my mother. And some other relatives left me alone too, or they didn't deal with me that much. And I'm trying to bring this down to something that you can really see and think about. Because a lot of times we think about the Creator, oh, that's mean. Why wouldn't He want to hear my prayer? Even though, and everybody and anybody thinks Yah hears their prayer. Sometimes your parents don't even want to talk to you when you're not doing correctly. Let alone the Creator. Sometimes your own father, mother, auntie, uncle, they have said to you, hey, I'm sick of your mouth. I'm sick of this or that. Don't call me. Okay? So, of course, you can understand Yah saying, hey, you're not living right. You're not doing right. I'm not trying to hear from you like that. Okay? And so I'm telling you from my own experience, my own earthly experience. And so for 4 to 45 years, I did not hear from my mother. From 4.5 to 5 years, I did not hear from my mother. The communication with my father had already stopped. It was already kind of sketchy, and then it completely stopped. I was sent to him and him and his wife at that time for a short period of time. I acted up there, and his and they had to basically put me out. And I no longer had contact with them from that point. I no longer had contact with my brothers either. My younger siblings. I was the oldest. Later in life, years later, different relatives accepted me again. My mother and father started to speak to me again. This was years later. Years and years later. My father and I started speaking again when I was 23 years old. So from the age of about 13 and a half to 23, me and my father did not speak but for one time. And that was when he called where I was staying and he needed to speak to somebody there. And I told him they weren't there, and the phone hung up, and that was the end of that. So from about 13 to 23 years old, me and my father, from about 13 and a half to 23, me and my father did not speak. From about 14 and a half to about 20 or so, me and my mother did not speak, nor did we see each other. And other relatives dealt with me on a need-to basis. Why? Was it because of them or was it because of me? It was because of me and my actions and my behavior. So I can understand the Creator. I can understand when it says, but your iniquities. What does iniquities mean? Your wrongdoing. What you doing wrong? You're not living up to the standard that's here. Because a standard tells you what's right, and also it tells you what's wrong. It says, but your iniquities have separated between you and your God. So it's not your fault. And so when we get unfocused or we're not focused, then, and we let go of Yah's standard, or we get other information that says Yah's standards is different, that he's updated something, so it's okay for us to make this decision. It's okay for us to do what was once unrighteous. It's okay. It's righteous now because it's been updated. But has it been updated according to Yah? Most of the time, no. So for whatever reasons we turn from Yah's standard, when we persist in that and don't repent, then Yah not trying to hear our prayers like that. He not trying to bless us like that. He not trying to be involved in our lives like that. Just like when I was misbehaving, my relatives and my parents, they wasn't trying to deal with me like that. But then when my behavior changed and I showed consistency in the righteous behavior as time went on, then those same relatives started to deal with me again. But only after I showed change in a consistent way. No matter what our biblical differences within the Hebrew community, I sincerely believe most of us have a basic understanding of what Yah expects of us as daughters, wives, sisters, aunts, as women, and Israelites in general. I think most of us have a basic understanding of that. Work to maintain y'all standard no matter what is happening. And that's where I see a lot of us fail over the years, is that when things start to go different than what we want, or things become challenging, then we start to do things different that we know we shouldn't. We started to change our behavior into ungodly behavior, and it's not acceptable. And it doesn't matter what the other person is doing. I had to apologize to my father and my mother. Even though my father wasn't in my life completely, I still had to go back to him and apologize, because why? It didn't matter. Whatever the reasons were, it did not matter. If my behavior was wrong, no matter what the reason, it did not matter. And I realized that when I started to live for Yah and I was learning from the Tanakh and the Torah. I realized that. And we have to realize that with each other, with our parents and other people, it don't matter what the other person is doing. That's them. They have to choose what standard they're going to live by for themselves also. And they may not choose y'all standard. Even if they say they do, they may not choose to live up to the actions that they know. But that doesn't mean that it's right for us not to. So even when people are doing wrong or going wrong, or situations are out of order or wrong, we still need to strive to handle things and to do things according to what's acceptable to Yah. And I'm going to tell you this, and believe me, I'm speaking these things, but I definitely realize and understand that doing this doesn't always feel good, and it's not always easy. But you have to fight through that feeling and do what's righteous anyway. I'm going to tell you something. If somebody is mistreating you and they won't change, Yahweh will deal with that. If a situation is wrong and you've done all you can do in it, eventually Yah will bring justice out of that. Believe that. But when you let go of his standard or you deviate from it, then he has to deal with the other person or the other situation, and he has to deal with you. So now the other person is out of good standing, or the situation, the people, whoever in the situation is not in good standing with Yah. And since you got out of line, you out of good standing too. Yahweh is not going to say, well, okay, this is why that happened and they did that. Most of the time, that's not going to go that way. He got to turn right back around and deal with you. And that's really sometimes when people really become disgruntled. And like I said before, as I'm saying this, I understand that that's not always easy. But when you fight through your feelings, and when you fight through your thinking, the wrong thinking, and do what's righteous anyway, Yah will remember that. There's not a time since I've been living this way that Yah have not remembered me and I maintain righteousness in a situation. It may took some time for things to come around to what it needed to be. And even if a person that have done you wrong is out of your life, so to speak, do not think for one moment that he don't deal with them. If they don't change and repent, and even sometimes if they do change and repent, Yah deals with his children. He deal with us for blessings, and he deal with us for other things too, for curses too. When we not striving sincerely to do how we need to do. So I just want you to know that. Don't think that I'm working through this and I'm trying to do right and this and that is going on and that Yah is not going to deal with it because he will. But if you do wrong and you don't continue in the right standard, he'll deal with you too. And our goal in this is to serve Yah, to serve him by being obedient to who we are, who we need to be, to work toward that. We're not perfect, but to work toward perfection. And through this, we keep and maintain our relationship with the Creator. It can be easy to do good and righteously when things are going well or how we want them to go, but harder when they are not. And that's one thing that I found in this way of life that the Creator started to show me early on. It's easy to do what I ask you to do and be what I need you to be when everything's going okay. But what you gonna do when it's not? That's something the Creator dealt with me on years ago. And over time, I understood that He expects me to be what I need to be regardless. And that was one of the goals. And it is not always easy. And it do not always feel good. And I know that. But it always, in the end, worked out in my favor over time. Over time. Okay? So sometimes I was uncomfortable for a while. Sometimes I had to see people that may have been wrong in me. Like, sometimes I had to see them just walking around happy for a while. And that makes you sometimes feel like, well, is that, why is y'all allowing this to happen? Now, I'm not saying every time, because sometimes I might have deserved certain bad behavior because of my past or because of my imperfections at the time. But I'm saying that sometimes you're going to be uncomfortable for a while as you perform righteously, but continue on anyway. The situation will not always be the same. In future videos, if Yah's will, I will talk about how to still meet Yah's standard or maintain in difficult moments or troubling situations. So I'll try to do my best to start to go over that in some videos in the future, where I'll try to talk about different scenarios and how to deal with different things to try to give you an overall idea. Or maybe if you're dealing with somebody with a certain character flaw, or you're dealing with this or that's troubling, how to kind of deal with that in an acceptable way to Yah and how to maintain. So I'll try to keep that in mind for the future. But what I want you to take from this is just choose Yah's standard. Really choose it. When you choose it, remember it. Remember it when things are going wrong, because it's going to be easy when things are going right and how you want them to go. But it gets harder when things aren't going how you want them to go, or when you're going through a challenging situation. So I want to thank you for your time. If you have any questions or any comments, you're welcome to leave them at the bottom of this video. You're also welcome to email me at yascornerstone@gmail.com. You're also welcome to follow me on Instagram. It's supporting Yah's Cornerstone. You're welcome to DM me or to leave a message there. Also, you're welcome to follow me on Facebook. There's a Facebook page called Supporting Yah's Cornerstone also. Thank you for your time. Shalom, shalom.